December 20th, 1943. The skies over Bremen, Germany. Second Lieutenant Charles Chuck Yeager banks his P-51 Mustang hard left as tracer rounds slice through the air where his cockpit was milliseconds before. He's 19 years old, flying his 8th combat mission, and his hands are shaking so badly he can barely grip the stick. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 on his tail is flown by Unteroffizier Ludwig Franziskat, a veteran with 11 confirmed kills who's been hunting Allied pilots for 2 years. He knows every maneuver in the book, and he's already positioning for the killing shot. Yeager's fuel gauge is dropping, his ammunition counter shows 60 rounds remaining, and the nearest friendly aircraft is 3 miles away. By every calculation, he should be dead in the next 30 seconds. What Franziskat doesn't know is that Yeager is about to do something that violates every rule in the fighter pilot's handbook, something so reckless and counterintuitive that senior officers will dismiss it as impossible when he reports it. Something that will accidentally revolutionize air combat for the next 80 years. By December 1943, the United States Army Air Forces faces a crisis that threatens the entire strategic bombing campaign over Europe. During the Schweinfurt-Regensburg raids in August, the 8th Air Force loses 60 bombers in a single day, 600 men killed or captured. In October, another raid on Schweinfurt costs 62 more bombers. The loss rate exceeds 20% on deep penetration missions, meaning bomber crews have virtually no chance of surviving their required 25-mission tour. The problem is range. P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings can escort bombers to the German border, but they lack the fuel capacity to penetrate deep into Reich territory. Once the escorts turn back, Luftwaffe fighters swarm the bomber formations like wolves on wounded prey. The solution seems obvious: develop long-range escort fighters. North American Aviation has delivered the P-51 Mustang, which has the range to reach Berlin and back. But there's a second, more insidious problem that nobody's talking about. American fighter doctrine is fundamentally flawed. The tactics manual, written by senior officers who learned to fly in the 1920s, emphasizes formation flying and coordinated attacks. Fighter pilots are taught to maintain strict positioning, execute textbook maneuvers, and never break formation discipline. Individual initiative is discouraged. The manual is gospel. Meanwhile, German pilots are destroying American fighters using a completely different approach. Luftwaffe doctrine, refined through years of combat over Spain, Poland, France, and Russia, emphasizes aggressive individual initiative. German aces like Adolf Galland and Gunther Rahl have developed the finger four formation and energy fighting tactics that give them enormous advantages. The kill ratio tells the story. In late 1943, experienced Luftwaffe pilots are averaging 3 to 4 kills for every aircraft they lose. Some aces like Egon Mayer and Walter Nauetny have kill ratios exceeding 10 to 1. American fighter commanders know something is wrong, but the solution eludes them. The consensus among senior officers is clear: American pilots need better aircraft, more flight hours, and stricter discipline. The tactics are sound. The problem must be execution. Charles Elwood Yeager is not supposed to be here. He grows up in the Appalachian foothills during the Great Depression, his family poor, his father working in the coal mines and natural gas fields. Chuck hunts squirrels and rabbits to put food on the table, developing exceptional eyesight and hand-eye coordination that lets him spot a squirrel in a tree at 300 yards. He enlists in the Army Air Forces in September 1941 as an aircraft mechanic with no college education, no wealthy family connections, no prior flying experience. In July 1942, facing a desperate pilot shortage, the Air Forces launches the Flying Sergeant program, allowing enlisted men to train as pilots without officer commissions. Yeager volunteers immediately, and though his superiors are skeptical about his marginal educational background, he proves them wrong. At flight school in California and Arizona, he demonstrates natural flying ability that instructors find remarkable. His vision is measured at 20 tenths, twice as acute as normal, allowing him to spot enemy aircraft before anyone else in the formation. By November 1943, Yeager arrives in England assigned to the 363rd Fighter Squadron, 357th Fighter Group, with approximately 270 flight hours logged. He's the kid from West Virginia who talks with an Appalachian drawl and lacks social polish among squadron mates who have college degrees and come from wealthy families. On December 20th, everything changes. The moment comes not from careful study or brilliant analysis, but from pure survival instinct, when Ludwig Franzisket's Bf-109 latches onto his tail and Yeager realizes he's about to die. Franzisket fires a burst and cannon shells rip past Yeager's canopy. The German pilot is closing for the kill, positioning for a deflection shot that will shred the Mustang's engine. Yeager's training screams at him to maintain altitude, execute a standard evasive turn, try to reach friendly aircraft. Every instinct says stay high where the Mustang has performance advantages. Instead, he does something insane. He rolls inverted and pulls the stick back, diving nearly vertical toward the German countryside 7,000 feet below. The airspeed indicator spins past 400 miles per hour, past 450. The Mustang's wings begin to buffet as it approaches its structural limits. This is suicide. Everyone knows German fighters can outdive American aircraft. The Bf-109's fuel-injected engine gives it enormous advantages in negative G maneuvers. Diving away from a 109 is exactly what you're not supposed to do. But Yeager isn't thinking about doctrine. He's reacting like a West Virginia boy who's hunted his entire life, using terrain, using speed, using every advantage available. As Yeager screams toward the deck, the Mustang actually accelerates faster than the pursuing Bf-109. The airspeed hits 500 miles per hour, and the controls are nearly locked solid from aerodynamic pressure. Franzisket follows, firing repeatedly, but his rounds are falling behind. The Mustang is pulling away. At 1,500 feet, Yeager hauls back on the stick with both hands. The G-forces slam him into his seat, his vision tunnels, and the Mustang's wings flex upward, stressed nearly to failure. The aircraft bottoms out at 800 feet, traveling at 480 miles per hour. Franzisket tries to follow, but the maneuver has bled off his energy. His airspeed has dropped to 320 miles per hour. Yeager levels out, looks back, and sees something that shouldn't be possible. The German fighter that was killing him 30 seconds ago is now behind him, slow and vulnerable. Franzisket is desperately trying to regain speed and altitude. Yeager reverses, climbs slightly, and positions behind the Bf-109. At 400 yards, he fires a 3-second burst. 50 caliber rounds tear into the German fighter's wing root and fuselage. The Bf-109 rolls left, trailing smoke, and spirals toward the ground. Yeager has just executed the first recorded high-speed yo-yo maneuver in combat aviation history, though he doesn't know that's what it's called. When he lands and reports the engagement, his squadron commander's reaction is immediate. That is absolutely impossible. The 109 outperforms us in every dive scenario. You must have misidentified the aircraft type. The intelligence officer's report is skeptical. The gun camera footage is inconclusive because the dive was too violent. Several senior pilots review Yeager's account and dismiss it as confused memory from combat stress. You cannot outdive a Messerschmitt, says Major Thomas Hayes, the group operations officer. Their fuel injection system gives them decisive advantages in negative G maneuvers. This is established fact. The doctrine is clear. American fighters should maintain altitude advantage and use coordinated attacks. Diving away from enemy fighters is explicitly discouraged in the tactics manual. What Yeager describes violates fundamental principles that senior officers learned at the Air Corps Tactical School. But he isn't alone. Over the next 3 weeks, other pilots begin reporting similar experiences. Lieutenant William Wisner executes a near-vertical dive to escape 2 FW-190s and discovers the same phenomenon. At extreme speeds, the Mustang's performance characteristics change dramatically. Captain Don Blakesley, commander of the 4th Fighter Group and one of the most experienced American pilots in Europe, decides to investigate. On January 11, 1944, he takes a P-51B to 25,000 feet over the English Channel and executes a series of high-speed dive tests. The results are startling. Below 20,000 feet in dives exceeding 450 miles per hour, the Mustang accelerates faster than any German fighter. The 2-stage supercharger designed for high-altitude performance creates unexpected advantages at high speed and low altitude. Blakesley writes a detailed report and submits it to 8th Fighter Command Headquarters. But the response is immediate and hostile. At a commander meeting on January 18th, he presents his findings, and the room erupts. Senior officers who have been flying since the 1920s are being told that fundamental assumptions about fighter combat are wrong, that a barely educated teenager from West Virginia has discovered something they missed. "This is reckless cowboy flying," says Colonel Hubert Zemke, commander of the 56th Fighter Group. "We cannot abandon coordinated tactics for individual heroics." Then Major General William Kepner, commander of 8th Fighter Command, intervenes. Kepner is a maverick who learned to fly in 1916 and flew combat missions in World War I. He's watched too many young pilots die following tactics that don't work, and he's willing to challenge conventional wisdom if the evidence supports it. "Gentlemen," Kepner says, "I don't care if this contradicts everything we learned at tactical school. I care about kill ratios. Captain Blakesley's group has the highest success rate in the theater. If his pilots are surviving by breaking the rules, then maybe our rules are wrong." Kepner orders immediate testing. Over the next 2 weeks, test pilots put P-51 BS through extreme dive profiles, and the data confirms Blakesley's findings. At speeds above 450 miles per hour, the Mustang's acceleration in a dive exceeds that of the BF-109 and FW-190. On February 3, 1944, Kepner issues a revolutionary directive. Fighter pilots are authorized to use individual initiative and aggressive tactics, including high-speed diving attacks. Formation discipline is de-emphasized. Pilots are encouraged to exploit the Mustang's high-speed performance. The old guard is appalled, but Kepner has the authority and he uses it. The new tactics are tested immediately during Big Week, a massive campaign beginning February 20th, 1944, to destroy German aircraft production. Over 1,000 bombers strike targets deep in Germany, escorted by P-51 Mustangs flying with Kepner's new doctrine. On March 3rd, the sky over Berlin becomes a proving ground. Yeager, now with 12 kills, leads a flight of 4 Mustangs at 28,000 feet. Below them, 300 B-17 bombers are approaching the German capital while Luftwaffe fighters rise to intercept BF-109s and FW-190s from JG-3 and JG-11, some of Germany's most elite units. Oberleutnant Heinz Bahr, an ace with 170 kills, leads a swarm of 4 BF-109 G6s. He spots Yeager's flight and begins a climbing attack, planning to use his altitude advantage for a diving pass on the bombers. Yeager sees them first. His exceptional vision gives him 30 seconds of warning. Instead of maintaining formation and executing a coordinated defense, he does something that would have been forbidden 3 months earlier. He rolls inverted and dives, not away from the German fighters, but toward them, building enormous speed. His wingman, Lieutenant Clarence "Bud" Anderson, follows without hesitation. Bahr sees the Americans diving and assumes they're fleeing, so he adjusts his approach to the bombers. At 600 miles per hour, Yeager pulls up underneath Bahr's formation. The BF-109s are traveling at 380 miles per hour, focused on the bombers ahead, and they never see the Mustangs coming from below. Yeager fires a 2-second burst at the trailing 109, and the German fighter explodes. Bahr breaks hard left, but Anderson is already there firing. The entire engagement lasts 45 seconds, 2 German fighters destroyed, 0 American losses, and the bombers continue unmolested to their target. This pattern repeats across the sky as American pilots using the new tactics achieve kill ratios that were impossible under the old doctrine. The Luftwaffe, accustomed to predictable American formations, suddenly faces aggressive individual attacks from unexpected angles. The numbers tell the story. In January 1944, before the new tactics, 8th Fighter Command's kill ratio against the Luftwaffe averages 2.1 to 1. By April, after widespread adoption of energy fighting tactics, the ratio climbs to 4.3 to 1. By June it reaches 6.1 to 1. German pilots notice immediately. Oberleutnant Johannes Steinhoff, a veteran ace, writes in his diary, "The American fighters have changed. They no longer fly in rigid formations. They dive from impossible altitudes at terrifying speeds. Our fuel-injected engines which gave us such advantages no longer matter. They are faster than us now." General Major Adolf Galland, commander of Germany's fighter forces, reports to Hermann Göring in April. The American Mustang pilots have adopted our own energy fighting tactics and improved upon them. Their aircraft's high-speed performance exceeds our capabilities. We are losing experienced pilots at an unsustainable rate. Bomber crews notice, too. Survival rates improve dramatically as B-17 pilots write home about how the fighter boys don't just escort anymore. They hunt, and the Germans are scared of them. By June 1944, the Luftwaffe is in crisis. Experienced pilots are being killed faster than they can be replaced, training programs are shortened, and poorly prepared pilots die on their first missions. The 8th Air Force achieves air superiority over Germany, and the human cost is measurable. Bomber loss rates drop from 20% in October 1943 to less than 4% by June 1944. Thousands of aircrew members survive missions they would have died on under the old tactics. After the war, a B-17 pilot named Robert Morgan tracks down Yeager at an air show and tells him, "My crew calculated that we should have been shot down on our 8th mission based on 1943 loss rates. We flew 22 more after that. Because of you and pilots like you, we came home. My children exist because you figured out how to keep us alive." The impact extends far beyond World War II. The energy fighting tactics accidentally discovered by Yeager and systematized by commanders like Blakesley become the foundation of modern fighter doctrine today. Charles Yeager ends World War II with 11.5 confirmed kills. He's shot down once, evades capture in occupied France with help from the resistance, and returns to combat, flying 64 missions total. After the war, he becomes a test pilot, and on October 14, 1947, he breaks the sound barrier in the Bell X-1, becoming the first human to fly faster than sound. The techniques he learned in combat, energy management, high-speed control, aggressive maneuvering, prove essential for supersonic flight. He retires as a brigadier general in 1975 and never claims to have invented energy fighting tactics. In his autobiography, he writes, "I was just trying not to die. If that helped other pilots survive, I'm grateful. But I didn't figure anything out. I just reacted." The tactics he accidentally pioneered are still taught today in every fighter pilot training program across the United States Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. The P-51 Mustang, optimized for the tactics Yeager helped develop, becomes the most successful American fighter of World War II, with North American aviation producing over 15,000 Mustangs that destroy 4,900 enemy aircraft in air combat. The 357th Fighter Group, Yeager's unit, achieves the highest kill ratio of any American fighter group in Europe at 5.7 to 1, destroying 609 enemy aircraft while losing 106 of their own. The lesson extends beyond aviation. Innovation often comes from unexpected sources. The teenager from West Virginia, with minimal education, saw something experienced officers missed, and the system nearly rejected his discovery because it contradicted established doctrine. How many other innovations have been lost because they came from the wrong person or challenged the wrong assumptions? How many lives could have been saved if organizations were better at recognizing truth regardless of its source? Yeager passed away on December 7, 2020, at age 97. His obituary called him the most famous test pilot of his generation and mentioned breaking the sound barrier and his combat record, but it didn't mention that he accidentally revolutionized air combat by doing something everyone said was impossible. Sometimes the greatest innovations come not from careful planning, but from desperate improvisation. Not from experts following established procedures, but from outsiders who don't know what's supposed to be impossible. Charles Yeager didn't set out to change military doctrine. He just wanted to survive his 8th mission. That he did so by breaking every rule in the book and in the process saved thousands of lives is what makes his story remarkable. The next time someone tells you something is impossible because it contradicts established wisdom, remember the 19-year-old from West Virginia who was too inexperienced to know he couldn't outdive a Messerschmitt.